Chapter 1. The moment you regain control. There is a moment in every person's life when they realize something powerful. Most of their problems didn't come from what happened, but from how they reacted to what happened. That moment, the moment of awareness, is the beginning of emotional control. And if you're listening to this right now, that shift has already started for you. Because the truth is, nothing transforms your life faster than mastering your reactions. Think about it. Most people respond to life on autopilot. Someone disrespects them and they fire back instantly. Something unexpected happens and they panic. A conversation gets heated and they lose their voice, their balance, their direction. They are controlled not by others but by their own emotions. And here's the most uncomfortable part. Reacting without thinking is the fastest way to give away your power. But you're here because a different part of you is waking up. The part that realizes emotional control is not a weakness. It's not suppression. It's not pretending you don't care. Emotional control is strength. It's clarity. It's choosing your response instead of letting your triggered self speak for you. It's understanding that the calmest person in the room is usually the one with the most power. You've already experienced moments of this without realizing it. Think about a time you were upset, angry, or stressed, but instead of reacting, you paused. You breathed. You waited. And later, you were grateful you didn't do something impulsive. That moment right there? That was emotional control. That was wisdom. That was your stronger self taking the wheel. Now, imagine living life with that level of control every single day. Imagine being unshakable in situations where others would break. Imagine handling criticism, pressure, and conflict with a calm presence that makes people wonder how you stay so grounded. That's what this audiobook is going to build in you, the ability to master your inner world so deeply that outside chaos can't move you. You're going to learn how to slow down reactions that used to control you. You'll learn how to identify triggers before they strike. You'll understand why your emotions rise in the first place and how to redirect that energy into clarity and strength. You'll stop fighting your emotions and start mastering them. Because the truth is, you don't eliminate emotions, you learn to lead them. But before we go deeper, understand this. Emotional control is not about becoming numb. It's not about being silent. It's not about pretending nothing matters. Emotional control is about responding with intention, not instinct. It's about making decisions from a place of clarity, not chaos. It's about knowing you always have two choices: to react blindly or to respond wisely. When you learn this skill, your relationships improve, your confidence rises, your ability to make decisions becomes sharper, and the way people treat you changes. You move differently. You speak differently. You think differently. You become someone who carries presence not because you force it, but because you're in control of yourself. And here's the most important truth of this chapter. Self-control is self-respect. How you react tells the world how much power you believe you have. When you react instantly, you tell life, "You control me." When you pause, you tell life, "I control myself." This is your reset. This is your beginning. This is the chapter where you reclaim your emotional power. From this moment on, your reactions will no longer be automatic. They will be intentional. You'll no longer be pulled by every emotion that rises. You'll stand centered, grounded, and calm even when life tries to test you. So take a breath. Slow your mind. Step into this new version of yourself. Because you are about to learn the art that separates the reactive from the powerful. And from this point forward, you will never look at your emotions the same way again. Say it to yourself. I choose my response. I choose my peace. I choose my power. Your journey has officially begun. Chapter 2. Why your emotions take over, and how to take them back. Before you can control your emotions, you have to understand why they control you. Most people think their reactions come from what someone said or what someone did, but that's not the full truth. Your reactions come from you, from your beliefs, from your insecurities, from your past experiences, from the stories you tell yourself in the moment. Your emotions don't rise because life is unfair. They rise because something inside you interprets life in a certain way. Let's break this down in a way most people never think about. Imagine someone says something disrespectful to you. Instantly, your body tightens. Your heart beats faster. Your jaw clenches. But why? The words themselves are just sounds. The real trigger isn't the person. It's the meaning you attach to what they said. Maybe it hits an insecurity. Maybe it reminds you of past disrespect. Maybe it makes you feel undervalued. Your reaction is not about the moment, it's about everything that moment awakens inside you. This is why emotional control starts with self-awareness. You have to understand your internal triggers, the things that set you off before you even realize what's happening. Because the truth is, your emotional reactions are rarely about the situation. They're about the story your mind creates around it. Think about these patterns. Someone ignores your message, you feel rejected. Someone disagrees with you, you feel attacked. Someone criticizes you, you feel unappreciated. Someone walks away, you feel abandoned. Someone gets loud, you get louder. But here's the real question. Are they the problem, or are you reacting to the version of the situation your mind is creating? This chapter is not about blame. It's about understanding. Because the moment you understand why you react, you can begin to change how you react. Here's a truth most people never stop to look at. Your emotions are not random. They have roots. They have history. They have patterns. And until you understand those patterns, your reactions will always feel stronger than your control. Let's go even deeper. Your emotional brain works faster than your logical brain. When something happens, your emotional mind reacts first, in milliseconds. It's wired for survival. It wants to protect you, defend you, alert you. That's why you sometimes say things you don't mean, or make decisions you later regret. Your emotional mind acts instantly. Your logical mind comes in later, once the damage is done. But here's the empowering part. You can train yourself to slow that process down. You can interrupt the emotional impulse. You can give your logical mind time to step in. You can break the cycle that once controlled you. And once you learn to pause, even for just a few seconds, you create space. Space to breathe. Space to think. Space to choose a better response. That space is where emotional power comes from. Because the truth is, you don't need to eliminate emotions to gain control. Emotions are not the enemy. They're signals. They're information. They tell you when something matters, when something hurts, when something needs to change. Emotional mastery isn't about shutting them down. It's about slowing them down long enough to understand them. And here's another truth. You were never taught this. You were taught math, science, grammar, but not emotional strategy. No one ever sat you down and said, here's how to respond when your anger rises, or here's how to stay calm when someone disrespects you. So you learned reactions. You learned defensiveness. You learned emotional shortcuts that might have protected you in the past but limit you now. But now you're learning control. Now you're learning presence. Now you're learning how to lead your emotions instead of letting them lead you. By understanding your triggers, you begin to understand yourself. And once you understand yourself, you become impossible to manipulate, impossible to disturb, impossible to push off balance. You become someone whose reactions are intentional, not automatic. And that's when life changes. Because the more you understand why your emotions take over, the easier it becomes to take them back. The more you recognize your triggers, the faster you can catch yourself before reacting. The more awareness you build, the more power you gain. So here's your challenge moving forward. Become curious about your reactions. Ask yourself, why did that bother me? What story did my mind tell me in that moment? What trigger did this awaken in me? This is how emotional control begins. Not with force, not with suppression, but with understanding. And once you begin to understand yourself, you become unstoppable. Chapter 3, The Power of the Pause. If there is one skill that instantly separates emotionally reactive people from emotionally powerful people, it's this: the ability to pause. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but the pause is one of the most underrated psychological tools you will ever learn. It is the difference between reacting and responding, between losing control and holding your ground, between saying something you'll regret and saying something you'll be proud of. Because the truth is, most people don't pause. They react as fast as their emotions rise. They speak before thinking. They defend before listening. They attack before understanding. They let their impulses make their decisions for them. But you're here because you're building a different kind of strength, the strength of self-command. And that strength begins with a pause. Picture this. Someone says something offensive. Your heart jumps. Your mind rushes. Your body tenses. You feel that familiar surge, anger, frustration, or even hurt, rising inside you. Every part of you wants to react instantly. But you wait. Not for 5 minutes. Not for an hour. Just for a second. A breath. A moment. In that small pause, everything shifts. Your emotional brain loses its grip. Your logical mind rises. Your clarity returns. This tiny pause, a second or two, is what gives you back all your power. Let's break down why this works so well. When something triggers you, your brain activates the amygdala, the emotional center responsible for fight or flight. This part of your mind reacts fast. It doesn't think, it just fires. When you pause, even briefly, you allow another part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, to step in. That's the part responsible for reasoning, decision-making, and long-term thinking. The pause shifts control from emotion to logic. This is why the calmest people aren't calm because nothing bothers them. They're calm because they mastered the art of slowing down their response long enough to choose the smartest possible reaction. You've seen people who seem unshakable. Someone insults them and they don't flinch. Someone tries to provoke them and they stay composed. Someone dumps stress on them and they remain grounded. It's not because they're emotionless. It's because they don't give their emotions instant access to their actions. The pause is emotional jujitsu. It's how you use your awareness to neutralize the force of your impulses. But let's be real for a moment. Pausing isn't always easy. Your emotions will try to convince you that reacting immediately is necessary, that you must defend yourself, prove your point, or strike back. Your ego will try to push you into fast responses because the ego hates waiting. That's exactly why the pause is so powerful. Because it is the act of choosing strength over ego. Here's what happens when you master the pause. 1. You stop saying things you later regret. That alone can change your relationships, your career, and your reputation. 2. You become harder to manipulate. People who pause cannot be emotionally pulled into traps. 3. You gain presence. You start speaking with intention, not impulse. 4. You think clearer under pressure. The pause turns chaos into clarity. 5. You gain authority, internally and externally. People trust those who don't react wildly. Think about how many mistakes, arguments, and regrets could have been avoided if you'd paused in the moment instead of reacting immediately. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine the strength and confidence you would build if you applied the pause every single day. But here's the good news. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to pause every time. You just need to pause more often than you used to. Every time you do, you get stronger. Every time you hold back for a second, you rewire your mind. Every time you choose silence over impulse, you build emotional muscles that most people never develop. And slowly, your old reactive self becomes quieter. Your responses become intentional. Your presence becomes calmer. Your self-control becomes automatic. The pause is where your power lives. It's the moment you stop your emotions from owning you. It's the space where wisdom forms. It's the breath that turns chaos into order. And if you can master this one skill, even just a little each day, everything else in your emotional life becomes easier. So here's what I want you to practice. When your emotions rise, pause. When someone triggers you, pause. When you feel disrespected, pause. When you're overwhelmed, pause. When your instincts say react now, pause. Because the pause is not hesitation. It's not weakness. It's not passivity. The pause is power. The pause is leadership. The pause is the first step to becoming the emotionally controlled version of yourself that you are building with every chapter of this journey. Remember this. You don't have to react fast. You have to react right. And the pause is how you get there. Chapter 4. Detaching from the things that steal your peace. If you want true emotional control, you must master one of the hardest but most liberating skills of all. Detachment. Not coldness, not avoidance, not pretending you don't care, but the ability to hold your peace even when the world tries to pull it out of your hands. Most people don't realize how deeply attached they are to things that drain them. They attach their happiness to how others treat them. They attach their worth to what others think. They attach their peace to outcomes they can't fully control. They attach their mood to events, circumstances, opinions, and expectations. And as long as you're attached like that, you'll always be emotionally fragile. Detachment is strength. Detachment is clarity. Detachment is how you shift from life controls me to I control myself. Think of it like this. If someone's behavior can instantly change your mood, they own your emotional world. If circumstances can ruin your entire day, you've handed life the remote control to your peace. If one person's reaction can determine your self-worth, you've placed your identity in someone else's hands. That's why detachment matters, because it gives you your power back. Let's look at where attachments secretly show up. You care too much about being liked, so criticism crushes you. You care too much about being right, so disagreements feel like attacks. You care too much about how someone views you, so you bend, shrink, or over-explain yourself. You care too much about controlling outcomes, so uncertainty makes you panic. You care too much about avoiding disappointment, so you overreact at the first sign of trouble. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you stop carrying what isn't yours. It means you stay rooted in yourself regardless of what happens around you. Here's a truth that might hit you hard. Most of the things you stress over were never yours to control in the first place. You can influence people, but you cannot control them. You can put in effort, but you cannot control outcomes. You can communicate well, but you cannot control how others interpret you. You can love deeply, but you cannot control how someone responds to that love. Once you accept this, your emotional world becomes lighter, calmer, clearer. Detachment creates mental space. Space to think before reacting, to breathe before speaking, to see things as they are rather than through the fog of emotion. This is where your authority comes from. Because when you detach from the need to win every argument, you become wise. When you detach from the need to be understood by everyone, you become free. When you detach from the need to control everything, you become unshakable. People feel it too. Detached people radiate a different kind of power. A quiet confidence. A presence that says, I don't need to force anything, I trust myself. Let's go deeper. Emotional attachment often comes from fear. Fear of being judged. Fear of being abandoned. Fear of failure. Fear of losing control. Fear of not being enough. When you detach, you don't eliminate fear, you outgrow it. You stop acting from fear and start responding from strength. You stop chasing validation and start valuing yourself. You stop reacting to triggers and start understanding them. You stop grabbing onto things that hurt you and start letting go. Detachment gives you choices you never had before. You can walk away from arguments without feeling defeated. You can listen to criticism without taking it personally. You can experience disappointment without collapsing emotionally. You can witness someone else's behavior without letting it define your worth. Most importantly, detachment allows you to stay calm even when others aren't. You will see someone losing control, but you won't join them. You will hear disrespectful things, but you won't respond with fire. You will face pressure, but you won't fall apart inside it. This is emotional mastery at its highest level. And here's the truth. Detachment doesn't distance you from life. It elevates you above the chaos of it. So here's what I want you to practice moving forward. When someone tries to provoke you, ask yourself, do I really need to react to this? When you feel misunderstood, ask, is it worth losing my peace to explain myself? When things don't go as planned, ask, was this ever fully in my control? When your emotions rise, ask, is this reaction helping me or hurting me? These questions create emotional distance. That distance creates clarity. And that clarity creates control. You will feel the shift, slowly at first, then deeply. You will realize how many situations no longer need your reaction. You will feel how much calmer your inner world becomes. You will notice how little actually deserves your energy. And when you reach that point, something powerful happens. You stop being moved by everything, because you finally understand what truly matters. This is detachment, not escape, not numbness, but pure emotional freedom. And it will change everything. You said. Chapter 5. Mastering your inner dialogue. If there's one battlefield where emotional control is won or lost, it's the one inside your own mind. Long before you react, long before you speak, long before you make a decision, there's a voice inside you shaping your response. That inner dialogue, that constant stream of thoughts, is either your greatest ally or your most destructive enemy. Most people don't realize this. They think their emotions come from situations. They think their reactions come from the outside world. But in reality, your emotional state is shaped far more by what you tell yourself about a situation than by the situation itself. What you think becomes what you feel. What you feel becomes how you react. How you react becomes who you are. This is why people with negative self-talk are easily triggered. Their inner world is already in chaos, so it doesn't take much for the outside world to push them into emotional overload. And the sad part? They don't even realize they're doing it to themselves. Your mind is talking to you all day long. The question is, what kind of things is it saying? Think about the last time you felt hurt, offended, or angry. The emotional reaction wasn't just because of the event, it was amplified by the story you told yourself about it. He's trying to disrespect me. They're ignoring me on purpose. I must not be enough. They don't value me. I can't handle this. These stories take small sparks and turn them into fires. Your inner dialogue shapes your emotional world more than people, situations, or circumstances ever could. If your inner voice is harsh, your emotions will be unstable. If your inner voice is calm, your emotions will follow its lead. This is why emotional mastery requires internal mastery. If you want peace on the outside, it starts with peace on the inside. Let's make this simple. Your emotions listen to your thoughts. Your reactions listen to your emotions. So if you change your thoughts, you change everything downstream. This is where the real work happens. Start paying attention to the phrases that rise in your mind when you're triggered. For many people, their inner dialogue sounds like this. I need to respond. I need to defend myself. I can't let this happen. I'm losing control. This is too much. These thoughts don't calm you, they accelerate the emotional storm. They convince you that reacting is necessary. They convince you that emotional urgency is the only option. They convince you that your triggers define you. But imagine replacing that inner voice with something wiser, more grounded, more intentional. I don't need to react right now. This is not worth my peace. I choose clarity over chaos. I control how I respond. This feeling will pass. This moment doesn't define me. Feel how different that is. That shift changes everything. Your mind becomes calmer. Your reactions become slower. Your perspective becomes wider. Your emotions become manageable. Your power becomes visible. Here's something most people don't understand. You don't need to silence your thoughts. You just need to redirect them. You need to train your inner voice the same way athletes train their bodies, consistently, intentionally, patiently. Because the truth is, emotional strength is not built in the moment you're triggered. It's built in the moments before you're triggered, when you're shaping the voice that will guide you. Your inner dialogue is the script your emotions perform. If the script is chaotic, your emotions will be chaotic. If the script is calm, your emotions will follow. If the script is empowering, your reactions will reflect power, not panic. Let's go deeper. Your inner dialogue is often influenced by your past. Old experiences, old wounds, and old patterns whisper thoughts that feel automatic. But just because a thought feels automatic doesn't mean it's true. And just because a thought feels familiar doesn't mean it's helpful. You are not obligated to believe every thought that enters your mind. You are not required to act on every emotion that rises in you. You are not controlled by your inner dialogue, you can rewrite it. Here's how you take your power back. When a negative or impulsive thought shows up, don't judge it. Notice it. Pause. Then replace it with something supportive, neutral, or empowering. Over time, your inner world begins to shift. The storms get quieter. The emotional spikes become less frequent. Your reactions become less automatic. Your clarity becomes more natural. You'll start to feel the difference in real situations. Arguments don't pull you in as easily. Pressure doesn't overwhelm you as quickly. Criticism doesn't hit you as deeply. Stress doesn't drain you as fast. People will even notice it, the calm, the presence, the grounded energy. They may not understand it, but they'll feel it. Emotional control shows up in your voice, your posture, your reactions, your silence. And it all starts with that inner voice. So remind yourself daily. My thoughts create my emotional world. I choose thoughts that give me power. I choose thoughts that protect my peace. I choose thoughts that help me rise. Master your inner dialogue, and you master yourself. Chapter 6. Stop taking everything personally. One of the greatest sources of emotional pain, and one of the biggest reasons people lose control, is the habit of taking things personally. Someone says something careless and suddenly your whole mood shifts. Someone doesn't respond the way you expected and you feel attacked. Someone acts distant and you assume it's about you. Someone criticizes one small thing and you turn it into a judgment on your whole identity. It's exhausting. Not because people are cruel, but because you're carrying the weight of meanings that were never yours to carry. Here's the truth most people never hear clearly enough. Most of what people do has nothing to do with you. It's a reflection of them, their mood, their fears, their habits, their stress, their worldview. But when you take everything personally, you interpret their world as if it revolves around you. And that's when the emotional spiral begins. Think about someone snapping at you. You tell yourself, why would they talk to me like that? What did I do? But maybe they're stressed, overwhelmed, insecure, or dealing with something heavy you know nothing about. Think about someone pulling away. You tell yourself, they must not care about me anymore. But maybe they're struggling internally, protecting their energy, or simply needing space. Think about someone giving criticism. You tell yourself, they're attacking me. But maybe they're projecting their own standards, frustrations, or expectations. Here's a truth that frees you once you understand it deeply. People act based on who they are, not who you are. And the moment you stop absorbing everything like it's a personal attack, you reclaim massive emotional power. Let's break down why taking things personally makes emotional control almost impossible. It turns every comment into a threat. Even harmless conversations become battles you feel the need to defend yourself in. It makes your peace fragile. Your mood depends on other people's behavior, a dangerous form of emotional dependence. It creates imaginary problems. You read into things that don't exist. You create stories that only hurt you. Keeps you reactive instead of reflective. Your emotions shoot upward because you misinterpret everything as judgment. It makes you forget your own value. You start seeing yourself through the lens of every negative assumption you make. But here's the beautiful part. Taking things personally is a habit, not a personality trait. And habits can be changed. The first step is understanding this. Your interpretation is the problem, not the event. So here's something powerful to practice. Whenever you feel triggered by someone's actions, ask yourself, is this really about me? Or is this about them? Do I know the full story, or am I assuming the worst? Is there another explanation for this behavior that has nothing to do with me? Is this actually a message about my worth, or am I creating that meaning? These questions force your brain to step back instead of diving emotionally into the moment. And 90% of the time, you'll realize you were about to take something personally that wasn't personal at all. This shift alone can change your entire emotional life. Imagine living with the mindset that you can have your mood and I'll keep my peace. You can express your frustration and I won't absorb it. You can be distant and I won't take it as rejection. You can criticize and I'll listen without collapsing. You can behave however you choose and I won't let it define me. That level of emotional separation makes you untouchable. Not cold. Not disconnected. Just centered, rooted in self-worth instead of other people's behavior. Here's something important. Not taking things personally doesn't mean letting people walk over you. It means responding from clarity rather than insecurity. It means you can address problems without emotional explosions. You can communicate without defensiveness. You can set boundaries without guilt. You can walk away without feeling wounded. Because when your identity is stable within you, the outside world can't shake it. Here's a mindset shift you must remember. What someone says about you is a reflection of them. How you react is a reflection of you. Emotionally strong people don't crumble under opinions. They don't internalize disrespect. They don't assume everything is directed at their worth. They allow people to act however they choose, while staying in control of how they respond. And that's the freedom you're building in this chapter. From now on, remind yourself, I do not take things personally. I choose peace over assumptions. I choose clarity over emotional conclusions. I choose to protect my energy from meanings that are not mine. Because the moment you stop taking everything personally, you stop suffering unnecessarily. You stop reacting impulsively. You stop giving others power over your emotions. You become grounded, balanced, and unbothered, not because life gets easier but because you get stronger. This is how you rise into emotional mastery. Chapter 7. The Art of Emotionally Intelligent Responses. There is a kind of power that doesn't roar, doesn't shout, and doesn't explode. It's the type of strength that speaks in measured words, steady breath, and calm decisions. The power of choosing your response, intentionally, consciously, deliberately, is the foundation of emotional control. People who master this skill do not avoid emotion. They simply refuse to let their emotions decide for them. You've probably experienced moments when something triggered you so quickly that you reacted before you even realized what was happening. A rude comment, a disrespectful tone, an unexpected message, a misunderstanding, a criticism that hit too close. These moments pull you toward emotional impulsiveness like gravity. But impulsive reactions almost never reflect who you want to be, they reflect the emotional state you were caught in. The difference between people who react and people who respond comes down to one thing: space. There is always a tiny window, sometimes less than a second, between what happens and what you do next. Most people skip over it. They go straight from stimulus to reaction, and then later they're left wondering, why did I say that? Or, why did I do that? But those who practice emotional self-control insert awareness into that space. They widen it. They slow it down. And in that widening is the birth of emotional power. Choosing your response begins with emotional honesty. You can't control a reaction you refuse to acknowledge. When someone disrespects you, admit to yourself, I feel triggered. When a situation makes you anxious, recognize, my body wants to panic right now. When fear or insecurity shows up, don't pretend you feel nothing. Instead think, this emotion wants to take over, but I don't have to follow it. Naming what you feel takes the emotion out of the driver's seat. Then comes the most important question you can ask in that space. What response protects my peace, my energy, and my long-term goals? Not what makes you win the argument. Not what makes you feel superior or justified. Not what punishes the other person. The question is simply, what protects me? Sometimes the answer is silence. Silence is one of the most underestimated emotional strategies. It's not weakness, it's emotional minimalism. It says, I will not contribute energy to something that drains me. Silence allows the other person to reveal more than you do. It protects your dignity and your composure. It buys you time to think. It prevents you from saying something permanent in a temporary emotional state. Other times the best response is distance. You don't have to remain in spaces that continuously trigger you. You don't have to absorb the energy of chaotic people. You don't have to remain accessible to those who misuse your presence. Creating distance is not abandonment, it's preservation. It is choosing environments that support your emotional stability rather than environments that constantly test it. And sometimes, when appropriate, the best response is calm clarity. Not emotional explanations. Not emotional outbursts. Calm clarity. Clear boundaries delivered without anger. A direct statement spoken with steady tone. When you address a situation from emotional control rather than emotional reactivity, people hear you differently. They take you more seriously. They realize they cannot shake you easily. Calmness becomes your authority. But emotional intelligence also means recognizing when responding at all is unnecessary. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every comment deserves attention. Not every conflict needs resolution. Many situations collapse on their own when starved of your reaction. Reactivity feeds problems. Restraint often dissolves them. The more intentional your responses become, the more consistent you become. Emotional consistency is a form of power because it makes you dependable even to yourself. You stop surprising yourself with emotional blow-ups, questionable decisions, or regretful words. You begin to operate from a version of you that is measured and steady. And this steadiness makes you difficult to manipulate. When someone can't predict how you'll react, they feel they can control you. But when you are consistent, grounded, and self-directed, they lose that leverage. Choosing responses consciously also strengthens self-trust. Every time you pause before reacting, you teach your mind that you are capable of emotional leadership. You demonstrate to yourself that you can handle discomfort without breaking. This repeated reinforcement builds inner confidence. You begin to trust that you'll show up as your best self even when tested. That self-trust is what makes you emotionally free. And perhaps the most transformational part of intentional responding is this. You stop letting other people dictate the tone of your day. You no longer give strangers, coworkers, critics, or emotionally volatile individuals the power to pull you out of alignment. You begin to decide how you want to feel, and you protect that feeling with your choices. You aren't supposed to feel nothing. You are supposed to feel deeply but react wisely. Emotional control is not emotional suppression. It is emotional direction. You take the emotion, acknowledge it, understand it, and then choose the response that aligns with who you want to be, not the response your emotions tempt you toward. This is how you become unshakable. Not by being emotionless, but by becoming selective. You elevate your standards for what gets your reaction, your time, your voice, and your energy. You stop giving emotional access to every situation that comes your way. You become intentional, measured, and grounded. And that is the power of not reacting. Learning to respond in a way that protects your peace, strengthens your self-respect, and preserves your emotional energy for what truly matters. Chapter 8. Mastering the inner dialogue that controls your reactions. There is a voice inside you that nobody else can hear. A constant narrator. A storyteller. A commentator on everything that happens around you. It speaks when you wake up, when you walk into a room, when you face conflict, when you're confused, when you're confident, when you're wounded, when you're triggered. That voice is always active. And the reality is this. It's not the world that makes you react, it's the meaning your inner voice attaches to the world. Emotional reactions begin in your mind long before they ever show up in your behavior. Someone says something rude and your inner voice declares, "They're disrespecting me." Someone ignores you and the voice whispers, "You're not important." Something doesn't go your way and it tells you, "See? Nothing works out for you." These interpretations are what trigger emotional storms. The event itself is neutral. It's the story your mind builds around the event that causes the reaction. Most people are unaware of their inner dialogue. They experience the emotion but never trace it back to the interpretation that created it. But when you start paying attention to the story your mind is telling, you unlock a level of emotional power most people never reach. You gain the ability to intercept the reaction before it takes over. You begin to question the narrative instead of automatically believing it. You start asking yourself, is this the only possible meaning? Or is this my emotion trying to control the story? For example, when someone speaks sharply, your inner dialogue might jump to, "They're attacking me." But another interpretation could be, "They're stressed. This isn't about me." When something unexpected happens, your inner voice might declare, "Everything is falling apart." But a healthier interpretation could be, "This is inconvenient, but manageable." When someone pulls away, the voice might whisper, "You did something wrong." But the more grounded truth might be, people go through things. Not every shift is caused by you. The story you choose will shape the emotion you feel. And the emotion you feel will shape the reaction you give. This is why mastering your inner dialogue is the foundation of emotional control. You must learn to talk to yourself more than you listen to yourself. Listening to your inner voice without questioning it is dangerous. The mind is dramatic, sensitive, and prone to exaggeration. It catastrophizes small events. It personalizes situations that have nothing to do with you. It invents meanings that feed fear, anger, insecurity, and self-doubt. Left unchecked, your inner dialogue becomes your biggest trigger. But when you learn to guide it, to challenge it, to correct it, you transform it into your strongest ally. The first step is awareness. Catch the narrative the moment it appears. Don't let it slip by unnoticed. Ask yourself, what am I telling myself about this situation? You'll be surprised how quickly this brings clarity. Often, the emotional charge isn't coming from what happened. It's coming from the story you created around it. The second step is reframing. Reframing doesn't mean lying to yourself or pretending everything is positive. It means choosing a more realistic, more empowering, and less inflammatory interpretation. It means shifting the meaning from one that triggers emotional chaos to one that supports emotional stability. A reframe can turn a reaction into a response. It can turn panic into perspective. It can turn anger into understanding. It can turn insecurity into neutrality. The third step is regulating the tone of your inner voice. Many people speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to someone they care about. They attack themselves. They criticize themselves. They shame themselves. A harsh inner voice creates harsh reactions. If your internal tone is aggressive, fearful, or self-destructive, your emotional life will reflect that. Reactions come from inner wounds, and wounds deepen when the inner narration is cruel. Speak to yourself with steadiness, with fairness, with patience. Not with unrealistic positivity, but with grounded self-respect. You can be honest without being hurtful. You can evaluate yourself without tearing yourself down. When your inner voice becomes calmer, more measured, and more supportive, your reactions naturally become calmer, more measured, and more controlled. The fourth step is creating mental space. Emotional reactivity thrives when the mind is cluttered. When you're overwhelmed, stressed, exhausted, or mentally crowded, your inner voice becomes louder and more dramatic. Everything feels heavier. Everything feels personal. Everything feels urgent. But when you create silence, through pauses, breathing, reflection, or simply taking a moment to think, your inner narration slows down. You give yourself room to interpret more wisely. Finally, the fifth step is rewriting your default emotional script. Every person has a script they've carried for years, beliefs about themselves, the world, and how people treat them. These old scripts shape your reactions automatically. Maybe your script says, "People are always out to get me," or "I'm never good enough," or "I need to prove myself," or "Any sign of conflict means danger." These scripts keep you trapped in reactive patterns. The only way to break those patterns is to consciously challenge the script and replace it with one that reflects who you're becoming, not who you used to be. When you master your inner dialogue, you become emotionally untouchable. Not because nothing affects you, but because you refuse to let your unfiltered thoughts dictate your behavior. You become someone who can pause, reflect, and choose your reaction with intention. Someone who can separate their emotions from their actions. Someone who can observe the story their mind creates without becoming controlled by it. And that's where true emotional freedom begins, not in silence, not in avoidance, not in suppression, but in choosing the meaning you give to every moment. When you control the story, you control the reaction. And when you control the reaction, you control your life. Chapter 9. The Power of Consistency in Emotional Control. Emotional mastery is not built in grand gestures or dramatic moments. It is forged quietly, daily, in small, deliberate choices. Every time you pause before reacting, every time you question your inner narrative, every time you choose a response that protects your peace, you reinforce the muscle of self-control. But like any muscle, it only grows stronger through repetition and consistency. One calm moment does not make you unshakable. One habit of pause, practiced over weeks and months, creates resilience that lasts a lifetime. Most people underestimate the power of consistent practice. They expect emotional control to appear as a sudden shift, as if one insight or one realization could rewire a lifetime of automatic reactions. But life doesn't work that way. Emotional habits are like grooves in a riverbed. The more you flow through the same patterns, the deeper and stronger they become. If your default is reactive, you will continue to react. If your default is intentional, calm, and measured, that becomes your baseline. The key to consistency is awareness. Awareness is the light that illuminates your automatic reactions so you can intervene. Without awareness, your emotions will run unchecked and old patterns will dominate. With awareness, you begin to notice triggers, recognize rising tension, and insert deliberate choice into the space between stimulus and response. This awareness must be cultivated every day, in every interaction, in every moment that matters and in moments that seem trivial. Consider the way emotional control spreads across your life. It starts in small, seemingly insignificant situations. Perhaps a colleague interrupts you at work. Instead of snapping, you pause, breathe, and respond with clarity. Perhaps a friend says something careless, and instead of reacting defensively, you choose understanding. Perhaps traffic frustrates you, and instead of shouting or gesturing, you remain calm. These small victories may seem minor, but repeated consistently, they form the foundation of unshakable emotional resilience. Consistency also means refusing to give in to excuses. Life will always provide reasons to lose control: stress, deadlines, fatigue, or other people's provocations. But mastery comes from maintaining your standards regardless of circumstances. Emotional control is a discipline, and discipline is not convenient. It is deliberate. Every time you react calmly despite pressure, every time you choose reason over impulse, you reinforce your capacity to remain grounded under stress. And over time, these repeated moments compound, transforming your emotional reflexes into controlled, intentional responses by default. Another critical aspect of consistency is integrating reflection into your practice. Emotional mastery is not only about what you do in the moment, it's also about reviewing your patterns, noticing where you slipped, and adjusting your approach. After a reactive moment, instead of berating yourself, ask, "What triggered me and how can I respond differently next time?" Reflection transforms experience into growth. It turns missteps into stepping stones rather than sources of regret. Consistent reflection strengthens the awareness muscle, and awareness strengthens consistent responses. Consistency also creates self-trust. The more you demonstrate to yourself that you can respond thoughtfully under pressure, the more confidence you develop in your ability to handle future challenges. You begin to trust your judgment, your pause, your ability to regulate emotions. That trust is self-reinforcing. The more you practice, the stronger your trust, and the stronger your trust, the easier it becomes to maintain calm in new, challenging situations. Emotional mastery, therefore, is not only a skill but a relationship with yourself, one built on reliability, patience, and repeated demonstration of self-control. The compounding effect of consistent practice cannot be overstated. Just as small, daily investments in financial wealth grow over time into significant fortunes, small, consistent investments in emotional control grow into lasting mastery. Each moment you choose restraint, clarity, and intentional response deposits into the account of your emotional resilience. Over weeks, months, and years, these deposits accumulate, until your reactions are no longer determined by circumstance, but by conscious choice. The cumulative power of these decisions eventually reshapes not only your emotional landscape but your life. Consistency also protects your energy. Every reactive outburst drains you emotionally, mentally, and even physically. Every calm, intentional response preserves your energy, keeps your mind clear, and allows you to direct focus toward meaningful action. Emotional mastery is, at its core, an energy management system. When you are consistent in maintaining control, you are preserving your most precious resource, your clarity, your focus, your composure, for what truly matters. Finally, consistency is what makes emotional mastery visible to the world. People notice those who are steady under pressure. They feel the presence of someone who is unwavering, grounded, and reliable. Your consistency becomes a signal to others. You are not easily provoked, you are thoughtful, you are intentional, and you are someone who commands respect through your composure. This external impact reinforces internal control, creating a feedback loop of influence, stability, and authority. The journey to emotional mastery is ongoing. You will encounter triggers, challenges, and moments where your discipline is tested. What defines you is not the absence of these challenges, but your commitment to responding consistently, thoughtfully, and intentionally. Over time, these choices become habits, habits become instincts, and instincts form the foundation of an unshakable, resilient emotional life. Consistency is not glamorous, but it is transformative. It is the engine that drives mastery, the soil in which self-control takes root, and the invisible force that turns moments of calm into a life of power, presence, and peace. So from today, commit to consistency. Observe, pause, reflect, choose, and repeat. Every day, every interaction, every choice to respond with awareness is a deposit into the strength of your emotional foundation. In this quiet, persistent work lies the secret of emotional power. Mastery is not an event, it is a habit. Chapter 10: Setting Boundaries That Protect Your Emotional Space. One of the most powerful tools in the pursuit of emotional mastery is the ability to set boundaries. Yet, boundaries are widely misunderstood. Many people think boundaries are about pushing others away, being selfish, or creating distance from everyone and everything. In truth, boundaries are not about shutting people out. They are about protecting your peace, preserving your energy, and creating the conditions necessary for your emotional strength to flourish. Without them, no matter how much awareness or self-control you practice, your calm will constantly be invaded, and your focus continually disrupted. The first step to setting boundaries is awareness. You cannot establish limits if you are unaware of where your tolerance ends. You must observe your internal reactions carefully. Notice when you feel drained, overwhelmed, or triggered. Ask yourself, which interactions consistently leave me exhausted? Which situations make me reactive rather than reflective? Which behaviors from others repeatedly disturb my peace? These are signals that a boundary is needed. A boundary is not a punishment for others. It is an act of self-preservation. It is the recognition that your emotional space is valuable and that you are responsible for protecting it. Boundaries require clarity and intention. They are most effective when they are precise. Instead of vague notions like, "I shouldn't let people upset me," boundaries become powerful when stated concretely. "I will not respond to heated messages when I feel my emotions rising. I need at least 24 hours before discussing conflicts to think clearly. I will not tolerate disrespectful language in my presence." These clear statements communicate to yourself and others what is acceptable, and more importantly, they provide you with a framework to respond rather than react. One of the most difficult aspects of boundaries is saying no. People fear that saying no will create conflict or rejection. They worry that they will disappoint others or appear uncooperative. But every time you say yes to something that violates your emotional space, you are sacrificing your peace. Saying no is not selfish, it is courageous. It asserts that your well-being is a priority. By learning to say no consistently, you begin to protect the mental and emotional energy that allows you to respond thoughtfully to situations that truly matter. Consistency is the secret to effective boundaries. A boundary that is set once and ignored afterward is meaningless. Others will inevitably test your limits, whether consciously or unconsciously. When a boundary is crossed, your response must be consistent, calm, and firm. If you waver, the boundary loses power, and the people around you learn that your limits are negotiable. Consistency reinforces your authority over your own emotional life. It teaches others how you expect to be treated and ensures that your inner calm is not negotiable. Boundaries are not just about keeping negative influences out, they are also about creating mental space. Emotional control thrives in clarity and calm. When your mind is overcrowded with obligations, unnecessary arguments, unresolved tension, or the drama of others, your ability to pause, reflect, and respond diminishes. Boundaries allow you to protect this mental space. They create breathing room, enabling you to make deliberate choices instead of being swept away by automatic reactions. They are the scaffolding upon which emotional mastery is built. Another essential aspect of boundaries is selective engagement. You cannot control the behavior of others, but you can control where you invest your time and emotional energy. Not every situation, conversation, or conflict deserves your attention. Not every comment or criticism needs a response. By selectively engaging only with people, tasks, and situations that align with your values and contribute positively to your life, you conserve energy for what truly matters. Boundaries help you prioritize your emotional investments so that you do not expend valuable energy on matters outside your control. Boundaries also protect your relationships. People often confuse boundaries with rejection, but the truth is that boundaries improve relationships. By setting clear expectations and maintaining consistency, you communicate respect for both yourself and others. You create space for honest, productive interactions rather than reactive, emotionally charged encounters. Healthy boundaries prevent resentment, burnout, and conflict while fostering trust, understanding, and mutual respect. The practice of setting boundaries is ongoing. Life is dynamic and your emotional needs evolve. Boundaries are not static rules etched in stone. They are living agreements with yourself about what you will accept, tolerate, and engage with. Each day you observe, refine, and enforce your limits. Some boundaries may need to be adjusted as you grow. Others may need reinforcement. The key is vigilance and consistency. Over time, these daily practices create an invisible framework of strength that shields your emotional energy from chaos, negativity, and unnecessary drama. Boundaries also cultivate self-respect and self-trust. Every time you uphold a boundary, you affirm to yourself that your well-being matters. You reinforce the belief that you are responsible for your emotional life and that no one else has the authority to dictate your peace. This repeated affirmation strengthens your inner confidence, making it easier to maintain calm and composure in challenging situations. Self-respect is both a product and a reinforcement of consistent boundary setting. Let's consider a practical example. Imagine a coworker consistently interrupts you during meetings, undermining your contributions. Without boundaries, you may react angrily or internalize frustration. Both reactions cost you emotional energy and peace. With boundaries, you might calmly but firmly state, "I would like to finish my point before you respond." If the behavior continues, you follow up consistently. Document your request, set limits on interactions, and escalate only if necessary. Each time you uphold the boundary, you reinforce your peace, clarity, and authority, while responding strategically rather than reactively. Another example is personal relationships. A friend repeatedly calls at inconvenient times or demands emotional labor without reciprocity. Boundaries here could mean communicating your availability clearly, limiting responses outside agreed-upon times, or stepping back from one-sided interactions. Doing so does not sever the relationship. It protects your emotional space, ensuring that when you do engage, it is intentional and balanced. Consistency in enforcing these boundaries strengthens both your peace and your ability to respond thoughtfully in the relationship. Boundaries also teach resilience. Life will always present challenges, conflicting demands, and unexpected triggers. By consistently practicing boundary setting, you create internal stability that is not easily shaken by external circumstances. You no longer need to react to every provocation or disruption. Instead, you operate from intentionality, making choices that preserve your calm, your clarity, and your energy. Boundaries become the architecture of emotional resilience, giving structure to the chaos of daily life. Finally, boundaries amplify all other skills of emotional mastery. They enhance your ability to pause, to choose responses, to detach from unnecessary triggers, and to manage your inner dialogue. They protect the foundation upon which emotional intelligence, control, and freedom are built. Without boundaries, these skills are vulnerable to erosion. With boundaries, they flourish. Remember this: boundaries are not walls, they are frameworks. They are not about isolation, they are about protection. They are not an act of selfishness, they are an act of self-mastery. By observing, defining, and consistently enforcing boundaries, you reclaim control over your emotional world, preserve your energy, and create the conditions necessary for intentional, powerful, and composed responses in every area of your life. When boundaries are respected, by you and by others, emotional mastery becomes not just a skill but a way of living. Chapter 11: The Ultimate Mindset. Living in control, not reacting to life. By now you have learned the tools, the strategies, and the mental frameworks necessary to stop reacting impulsively, to master your inner dialogue, to protect your emotional energy, and to set clear boundaries. You have explored the power of awareness, consistency, intentional responses, and selective engagement. You have understood that your emotions are not determined by the outside world, but by how you interpret, process, and respond to it. Now, it is time to bring all of these elements together into one ultimate mindset: living in control, not reacting to life. Most people live as if life is happening to them rather than through them. They allow external events, other people's behavior, and unexpected challenges to dictate their emotional state, their focus, and even their decisions. They react. They overreact. They replay old patterns. They absorb negativity, fear, and drama without pause. But emotional mastery is the art of stepping out of that default mode. It is choosing to live intentionally, calmly, and strategically, no matter what the world throws at you. To live in control, you must first fully internalize this truth. Your power lies in the space between stimulus and response. That space, though small, is where your freedom exists. When you pause, breathe, and consider your next move, you reclaim authority over your life. You no longer allow impulses, triggers, or external chaos to dictate your actions. That pause is not hesitation. It is a conscious, deliberate choice to act with power, clarity, and purpose. Imagine your life as a river. Without control, You are like a leaf caught in the current, tossed by every wind and wave. With emotional mastery, you become like a skilled navigator in a kayak. You cannot control the river, the weather, or the rocks ahead. But you can steer. You can choose your path. You can adjust to obstacles with skill and confidence. That is the difference between reacting and responding. Every element you have learned, pausing before reacting, managing your inner dialogue, taking things less personally, setting boundaries, and practicing consistency, feeds into this central principle. They are not isolated tactics. They are a cohesive system that shapes the way you experience life. The more you practice, the more automatic this becomes. You begin to respond naturally with calm and clarity, even in situations that once provoked panic, anger, or despair. Consider how this works in everyday life. A colleague makes a cutting remark. Instead of snapping back or letting it ruin your day, you pause, breathe, and decide, "This does not define me. This is not worth my energy." Your response may be silence, a calm clarification, or even humor, but it is intentional. Your peace is intact. Your focus remains unbroken. And in that moment, you are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are a master of your emotional environment. Or imagine a personal relationship where tension arises. A friend or partner behaves in a way that used to trigger resentment or anxiety. With emotional mastery, you pause, interpret the behavior objectively, and respond with clarity or set a boundary if necessary. You maintain your composure, protect your energy, and engage only in ways that are constructive rather than reactive. You become emotionally untouchable, not by shutting down but by stepping fully into deliberate choice. Consistency, as you have learned, is the engine behind this transformation. Emotional control is not a one-time victory, it is a daily commitment. Every moment you choose awareness over impulse, clarity over chaos, and response over reaction, you strengthen the neural pathways that make emotional mastery your default. Habits compound. Small wins today build unshakable strength tomorrow. You begin to anticipate triggers, recognize patterns, and navigate life with foresight and resilience. Equally important is self-respect. Living in control requires that you value your own emotional space, your peace, and your mental clarity above the need to prove yourself, defend your ego, or react impulsively. Self-respect is the compass that guides your decisions, the anchor that keeps your responses grounded, and the shield that prevents others from hijacking your energy. The more you honor yourself in this way, the more naturally others will respect your boundaries, your time, and your emotional space. At this stage, emotional mastery is no longer about effort. It becomes a lifestyle. You begin to notice patterns in others without being consumed by them. You handle conflict with calm authority. You engage in relationships intentionally, not reactively. You approach challenges strategically, not with fear or panic. Life is no longer a series of emotional whiplash events. It is a sequence of moments that you navigate with power, presence, and clarity. And here is the ultimate lesson. Emotional control is freedom. Freedom from the tyranny of other people's opinions, the chaos of circumstances, and the unpredictability of external events. Freedom to think clearly, act intentionally, and experience life fully without unnecessary emotional turbulence. Freedom to make decisions from a place of strength, not weakness. Freedom to define your life according to your principles rather than reacting to what others impose. But freedom is not given, it is earned. It is built moment by moment, choice by choice. Every time you pause instead of react, you reinforce your authority over your life. Every time you protect your energy, you strengthen your resilience. Every time you choose boundaries, you solidify your internal peace. Every time you reframe your thoughts, you reclaim your mental control. These daily practices accumulate into a life of unshakable composure, clarity, and empowerment. As you step forward from this chapter, carry this truth. Life will test you. Challenges will arise. People will provoke you. Events will surprise you. But your power lies in the response you choose. Not in the stimulus, not in the people, not in the circumstances, but in the space between, where you decide what to feel, think, and do. This is where your mastery begins. This is where your freedom lives. This is where your life transforms from reactive chaos into intentional strength. And the incredible truth is that you can start right now, in this very moment. Pause. Breathe. Observe. Choose. That one choice will ripple into countless moments, creating a life of clarity, composure, and unstoppable presence. Your journey to emotional mastery is not about perfection. It is about commitment. Commit to living intentionally. Commit to protecting your energy. Commit to responding thoughtfully. Commit to building consistency. Commit to respecting yourself. And watch as your life shifts from reaction to mastery, from chaos to calm, from uncertainty to freedom. This is not just the end of a chapter. It is the beginning of a new life. A life where you no longer surrender to triggers. A life where you no longer give power to chaos. A life where your mind, your emotions, and your reactions are aligned with your highest potential. A life where freedom is your default, not a rare occasion. Now step into it. Choose mastery. Choose peace. Choose freedom. And live deliberately because your life deserves nothing less. Chapter 12. Advanced Practices for Unshakable Emotional Mastery. Even after you have mastered the basics of emotional control, pausing before reacting, managing your inner dialogue, setting boundaries, and responding intentionally, there is a higher level of mastery that can transform not only how you handle emotions, but how you thrive in life. This is the stage where emotional intelligence becomes a lifestyle, and calm, intentional presence becomes your default state in every situation. The first advanced practice is anticipatory awareness. This means recognizing patterns and potential triggers before they arise. Most people react to situations as they occur, caught off guard by circumstances, other people's behavior, or internal emotional surges. Masters of emotion, however, anticipate what is likely to provoke them. They observe patterns in their day, their environment, and in the people around them. For example, if a certain colleague tends to criticize when under pressure, you prepare your mental state beforehand. You remind yourself not to take it personally, to pause, to breathe, and to respond calmly. If a particular conversation with a friend tends to escalate, you plan your words and mindset in advance so you maintain composure. Anticipation turns reactive chaos into proactive control. You can't control everything, but you can prepare for everything that matters. The second advanced practice is emotional rehearsal. Just as athletes visualize their performance before a game, you can rehearse difficult emotional scenarios in your mind. Imagine a challenging interaction with a coworker, a family member, or even a stranger. Picture yourself responding calmly, assertively, and strategically. Visualize maintaining your peace while others may become upset or provocative. This mental rehearsal strengthens your ability to act with clarity when the real situation arises. Repetition in imagination creates automatic competence in reality. The more you practice emotionally in advance, the less likely you are to react impulsively under pressure. The third advanced practice is strategic disengagement. There will always be situations, people, and conflicts that are not worth your energy. Mastery is knowing not only how to respond wisely, but also when to disengage entirely. Strategic disengagement is not avoidance. It is intelligent allocation of your time, energy, and emotional resources. Sometimes the most powerful response is to step back, observe, and act only when necessary. This preserves your energy for situations that truly matter and ensures that minor provocations do not disrupt your life. You do not have to participate in every drama, answer every criticism, or solve every problem, especially when doing so compromises your peace. The fourth advanced practice is mindful emotional reset. Even masters of emotional control experience moments of stress, frustration, or anger. The difference is in how quickly they reset. A mindful reset can involve breathing techniques, short meditation, visualization, journaling, or even a brief physical activity like walking. These micro-resets allow you to interrupt the escalation of emotion, regain perspective, and respond intentionally. Practicing this regularly strengthens your ability to remain grounded, even in the most turbulent situations. The fifth advanced practice is emotional accountability. Take responsibility for your reactions, not as self-punishment but as empowerment. When you respond poorly or allow an emotional surge to take over, reflect afterward. What triggered me? How did I interpret the situation? How could I have responded differently? Then create a plan to respond differently next time. Accountability is not about blame. it's about refinement. The more you review and learn from your experiences, the more your emotional responses become deliberate and aligned with your highest self. The sixth advanced practice is energy management. Emotions consume energy. Reactivity drains it. Calm, intentional responses preserve it. Mastery requires strategic use of emotional, mental, and physical energy. Pay attention to your sleep, diet, exercise, and routines. Recognize environments, relationships, or tasks that drain unnecessary energy and take steps to minimize them. Emotional control is easier when your body and mind are well nourished and rested. Energy management and emotional mastery are inseparable allies. The seventh advanced practice is empathy without absorption. Emotional masters learn to understand others' feelings without absorbing them. You can recognize stress, fear, anger, or negativity in others, yet maintain your own emotional center. This is critical in relationships, leadership, and daily life. Empathy allows connection, but detachment allows preservation of peace. You can care without taking on the chaos. You can guide without being consumed by others' instability. The eighth advanced practice is celebrating micro-victories. Emotional mastery is built in small steps, not grand gestures. Each moment you pause instead of reacting, each time you uphold a boundary, each instance you reframe your inner dialogue, these are victories. Celebrate them mentally, recognize them, and let them reinforce your confidence. Over time, these micro-wins compound into a mindset of stability, power, and resilience. Finally, the ninth advanced practice is lifelong commitment. Emotional mastery is not a destination, it is a journey. There will always be new challenges, new triggers, and new people testing your limits. Mastery requires ongoing vigilance, self-reflection, and practice. It is a lifestyle of intentionality, awareness, and disciplined choice. The more you commit to this journey, the more it becomes effortless, natural, and unshakable. Imagine walking through life as a calm, steady presence. Situations that once provoked anxiety or anger now meet your pause, your clarity, your intentional response. You navigate conversations, challenges, and conflicts with composure, confidence, and strategic insight. You no longer give power to chaos, drama, or emotional impulses. You operate from a center of strength, clarity, and peace. This is the culmination of everything you have learned. Awareness, reflection, boundaries, consistency, response over reaction, and advanced mastery practices. It is not a fantasy, it is achievable with commitment, discipline, and practice. Each choice you make today, each pause, each boundary, each reframing compounds into an unshakable foundation of emotional freedom. The world will continue to challenge you. Life will always bring unpredictability, conflict, and triggers. But now, equipped with awareness, strategy, and advanced practices, you will no longer surrender your peace to circumstance. You will respond intentionally. You will protect your energy. You will live deliberately. And in doing so, you will unlock the ultimate reward: freedom from reactive chaos, mastery over your mind, and the power to live life on your own terms. Step into it. Start today. Choose mastery. Choose your peace. Choose yourself. Because nothing outside you should ever control what lives inside you. Chapter 13. Embedding emotional mastery into every aspect of life. By now, you have learned how to pause, reflect, manage your inner dialogue, set boundaries, and respond intentionally. You have explored advanced practices like anticipatory awareness, emotional rehearsal, strategic disengagement, and energy management. You have begun living in control rather than reacting to life. But mastery is not complete until these practices become embedded in every aspect of your existence. Your daily routines, your relationships, your career, and even the way you see yourself in the world. The first step in embedding emotional mastery is habit integration. Knowledge alone is not enough. Mastery is built through repetition and consistency. Just as an athlete trains every day to build strength, your mind and emotional reflexes require daily practice. Start with small, deliberate habits. Pause for 3 deep breaths before responding in conversations. Reframe one negative thought every morning. Journal your emotional triggers each evening. These small daily actions train your mind to operate in a space of awareness, even before challenges arise. Consistency turns these small steps into automatic habits, making mastery a natural part of who you are. The second step is environmental alignment. Your environment shapes your emotional state more than you realize. The people you spend time with, the information you consume, the spaces you occupy, they all influence your reactions and your energy. Surround yourself with individuals who respect boundaries, practice emotional intelligence, and support your growth. Reduce exposure to toxic relationships, constant negativity, or chaotic environments that disrupt your emotional balance. Curate your surroundings to reflect the life you are creating, one that fosters calm, focus, and intentionality. Emotional mastery thrives where the environment is supportive, not draining. The third step is embedding reflection into your daily routines. Reflection is the bridge between practice and mastery. Without it, moments of awareness can fade into habitless, reactive living. Schedule intentional pauses in your day, morning, midday, and evening, to review your reactions, assess your choices, and adjust where necessary. Ask yourself, did I maintain my composure in challenging situations today? Did I honor my boundaries? Did I allow external circumstances to dictate my emotional state? These reflections strengthen awareness, reinforce learning, and gradually transform reactive instincts into intentional responses. The fourth step is leveraging accountability. Mastery does not happen in isolation. Find mentors, coaches, or peers who are also committed to emotional growth. Share your progress, discuss challenges, and celebrate victories. Accountability accelerates transformation by highlighting blind spots, reinforcing discipline, and providing support when you face difficult emotional situations. Being accountable to someone else creates an external layer of structure that complements your internal practices, ensuring that emotional mastery is not just aspirational but lived daily. The fifth step is integrating mindfulness in every interaction. Emotional mastery is not a concept reserved for crises or challenging moments. It is a continuous practice that should permeate everything you do. From simple conversations with colleagues to high-stakes meetings, from family interactions to digital communication, mindfulness allows you to notice your emotions, pause, and choose responses consciously. Being fully present in every interaction reduces impulsive reactions, strengthens empathy, and enhances clarity. The more integrated mindfulness becomes, the more naturally your emotional intelligence manifests in every area of life. The sixth step is anticipating challenges proactively. Life will always introduce unpredictability, difficult people, unexpected events, or high-pressure situations. Masters of emotional control prepare for these challenges before they occur. Visualize potential stressors, plan your responses, and rehearse maintaining composure under pressure. Anticipatory preparation allows you to navigate difficulty with confidence, reducing emotional turbulence and ensuring that your responses are intentional rather than reactive. The seventh step is combining emotional mastery with purpose. Mastery is most powerful when aligned with your values and life goals. Ask yourself, how does emotional control support the life I want to create? How does it help me achieve my goals, maintain meaningful relationships, and grow as a person? Aligning mastery with purpose gives your practice meaning, motivation, and sustainability. It transforms emotional control from a discipline into a tool for living your best life. The eighth step is continuous learning and growth. Emotional mastery is not static, it evolves as you evolve. Seek knowledge, read books, attend workshops, and learn from experiences that challenge your emotional control. Every challenge is an opportunity to refine your responses, strengthen your resilience, and deepen your mastery. Those who stop learning risk stagnation, while those who embrace growth remain adaptable, wise, and unshakable. Finally, embedding mastery requires compassion and patience with yourself. You will encounter setbacks. You will occasionally react before you pause. You may struggle to maintain boundaries or manage your inner dialogue. This is natural. Mastery is not about perfection. It is about commitment, persistence, and self-compassion. Treat mistakes as opportunities to learn rather than evidence of failure. Over time, patience, practice, and persistence will transform reactive patterns into automatic habits of control and intentionality. Imagine living each day with emotional clarity, confidence, and calm. Imagine interacting with others without being hijacked by fear, anger, or impulsivity. Imagine navigating work, relationships, and life's unexpected challenges with intentionality and poise. This is the life you can create by embedding emotional mastery into every aspect of your existence. Each habit, boundary, reflection, and mindful pause compounds into a life where you are no longer a victim of circumstances but a master of your own inner world. Take the knowledge you have gained, apply it diligently, and allow these practices to shape not just your reactions but your entire life. Emotional mastery is not a skill you turn on occasionally, it is a lifestyle you inhabit every day. The more fully you integrate it, the more natural, effortless, and powerful it becomes. This is the ultimate stage of freedom, when control over your emotions is no longer a goal you chase but the way you live. Every breath, every thought, every interaction, and every choice reflects your mastery. Life no longer pushes you around, you navigate it with precision, clarity, and unwavering presence. Start embedding these practices today. Strengthen them daily. Align them with purpose. Protect your energy. Pause, reflect, respond. Over time, this way of living transforms ordinary moments into opportunities for mastery, turning a reactive existence into a life of intentional power, calm, and freedom. The journey does not end here, it only deepens. Emotional mastery is not a destination, it is a lifelong practice, and by committing to it fully, you become unstoppable. Chapter 14. Mastering Life, Taking Emotional Control Beyond Yourself. By this point in your journey, you have developed awareness, practiced pausing before reacting, learned to manage your inner dialogue, set clear boundaries, and integrated advanced strategies into your daily life. You have explored not only control over your responses but also the subtleties of anticipation, rehearsal, selective engagement, and energy management. You have begun to live intentionally rather than reactively. But true mastery takes you one step further. It extends your emotional control beyond yourself and allows you to influence, inspire, and thrive in the world around you. The first principle of this stage is influence through calm. People are naturally drawn to composure, stability, and clarity. When you maintain your calm under pressure, others notice. Your calm becomes contagious. In conversations, negotiations, leadership roles, or even casual interactions, your presence signals stability and trustworthiness. Emotional mastery is no longer only about your inner world, it becomes a tool for shaping your environment. When you respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively, you model control and wisdom for others, creating an atmosphere where deliberate responses are the norm rather than the exception. The second principle is empathy with discernment. By this point, you understand the power of empathy without absorption, feeling and understanding others' emotions without letting them hijack your own. Now, you can use this awareness to elevate relationships. You can identify when someone needs support, guidance, or simply a listening ear. You can engage compassionately without losing yourself in another person's chaos. This ability transforms your social interactions from reactive or superficial exchanges into powerful connections that foster trust, loyalty, and collaboration. Emotional mastery now empowers not only you but also those around you. The third principle is strategic patience. Mastery is not about acting at every impulse. It is about choosing when and where your energy, attention, and emotional presence are most impactful. Strategic patience allows you to hold back when circumstances are volatile, to observe before intervening, and to act only when timing, context, and intention align. This approach amplifies your effectiveness in leadership, problem-solving, and personal relationships. Patience is not passivity, it is deliberate strength. By acting strategically, you conserve your energy, enhance your influence, and ensure that your decisions carry weight and clarity. The fourth principle is turning adversity into advantage. Life will always challenge even the most disciplined minds. Situations will arise that provoke fear, frustration, or anger. Emotional mastery allows you to transform these challenges into opportunities for growth. When confronted with criticism, you extract lessons instead of reacting defensively. When faced with failure, you analyze, adapt, and pivot rather than spiral into despair. Every obstacle becomes a training ground, a test of your ability to maintain composure, and a chance to deepen your resilience. You begin to see adversity not as a threat but as a catalyst for mastery. The fifth principle is intentional impact. Emotional mastery is a superpower when applied to influence the world around you. Every action you take, every word you speak, every interaction you engage in can be intentional and purposeful. You no longer allow reactive tendencies to dictate how others feel, how situations unfold, or how decisions are made. You bring clarity where there is confusion, calm where there is chaos, and purpose where there is aimlessness. Your mastery becomes a force multiplier, magnifying your effectiveness in work, relationships, and personal growth. The sixth principle is lifelong evolution. Mastery is not a static state, it is dynamic, evolving as you evolve. Each day presents new challenges, new relationships, and new opportunities for growth. Committing to emotional mastery means embracing continual learning. It means reflecting on successes and failures, refining your habits, and adapting strategies as circumstances change. Even when you achieve a high level of emotional control, new triggers or environments will test you. The journey of mastery is eternal, and those who embrace it fully continue to grow in resilience, clarity, and influence over a lifetime. The seventh principle is legacy of calm and influence. When emotional mastery is fully embedded in your life, it extends beyond personal benefit. You influence families, teams, communities, and organizations. People notice composure, consistency, and intentionality. They begin to model these behaviors themselves. You become a stabilizing force in chaotic environments, a guide for others seeking clarity, and an example of what disciplined emotional control can achieve. Mastery becomes a gift you share with the world, not a secret you keep to yourself. Finally, this stage of mastery requires unwavering commitment and courage. It is easy to fall back into reactive habits, especially when confronted with stress, fatigue, or provocation. But every moment of deliberate choice reinforces your inner authority. Every pause, every boundary, every intentional action compounds into lasting power. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is choosing mastery in spite of it. Commitment is not occasional, it is daily, consistent, and unyielding. Together, they ensure that your emotional control is resilient, adaptive, and unstoppable. Imagine the life you can create. A life where your mind is clear, your emotions are balanced, and your responses are deliberate. A life where challenges no longer destabilize you, where relationships thrive, and where your presence carries influence. A life where freedom from reactive chaos is not a dream but a daily reality. This is not a distant goal, it is accessible now through consistent practice, reflection, and intentionality. Your journey does not end with mastering yourself. It continues as you expand that mastery into every corner of your life, leaving a legacy of calm, clarity, and strength. You now hold the tools to navigate complexity, adversity, and unpredictability with unwavering composure. You are no longer a passive participant in life, you are a master of your inner world and a deliberate architect of your outer one. Step forward. Apply your mastery. Influence with calm. Transform challenges into opportunities. Inspire others through presence. And live the life of freedom, intentionality, and unstoppable power that you were meant to create. Chapter 15. Embracing Mastery, Your Life in Action. By now you have traveled a long journey. You have learned to pause instead of react, to manage your inner dialogue, to set clear boundaries, to anticipate triggers, and to strategically engage with the world around you. You have explored advanced practices for emotional control, integrated them into daily routines, and begun living intentionally rather than reactively. You have discovered that mastery is not merely about self-control, it is about creating freedom, influence, and purpose in every area of your life. Chapter 15 is about taking all of these lessons and embedding them fully into your life, so that mastery is not a skill you turn on occasionally, it becomes the default operating system of your mind, body, and spirit. It is the moment where theory meets action, where knowledge transforms into habits, and habits shape reality. To begin, understand that mastery is a lifestyle, not an event. You do not achieve it overnight, nor is it a static accomplishment. Each day presents opportunities to practice, refine, and expand your control. Every interaction, every challenge, and every decision is a chance to reinforce what you have learned. Life will always introduce unexpected stressors, difficult people, and situations that test your patience. But mastery allows you to navigate these challenges with clarity, intentionality, and composure. Your responses no longer come from impulse, they come from principle. A key to embedding mastery fully is integration across all areas of life. Emotional control is not limited to moments of conflict or stress. It applies to your relationships, career, health, finances, and personal growth. In relationships, mastery means engaging with empathy, understanding, and clarity without absorbing chaos or overreacting. In your career, it means making decisions calmly, leading without ego-driven responses, and communicating strategically. In your personal growth, it means consistently reflecting on habits, improving self-awareness, and practicing disciplined responses. When mastery is applied across your entire life, it compounds, creating unstoppable momentum. Another essential element is alignment with your purpose. Emotional mastery is most powerful when tied to your core goals and values. Ask yourself daily, how does my emotional control serve the life I want to create? Align every action, reaction, and pause with your purpose. When your decisions and responses are aligned with your values, mastery becomes effortless. You are no longer reacting to the whims of circumstance. You are designing your life with intention and precision. To solidify this transformation, you must embrace daily reinforcement practices. Reflection, journaling, mindfulness, and pause exercises are not optional, they are the glue that keeps mastery alive. Each evening, reflect on your choices. Where did you maintain composure and where did you falter? What can you learn from each interaction, each challenge, and each success? This consistent review strengthens neural pathways, turning intentional responses into automatic habits. Over time, you will notice that maintaining calm, clarity, and focus becomes natural, even in situations that previously triggered chaos. Another cornerstone of mastery is celebrating incremental wins. Emotional control is not about achieving perfection. It is about progress. Each moment you pause, each boundary you enforce, each choice to respond rather than react. These are victories. Acknowledge them, internalize them, and let them fuel your confidence. Mastery compounds in these small, repeated wins. The more you celebrate progress, the more motivation you build to continue advancing. A master also understands resilience in the face of setbacks. There will be times when your composure is tested, when you feel overwhelmed, or when old habits attempt to pull you back into reactive patterns. These moments are not failures, they are opportunities to practice, learn, and reinforce your control. Resilience is built not in moments of ease, but in moments of challenge. The difference between mastery and mediocrity is how quickly you recover, recalibrate, and continue practicing intentional responses. By now, you have learned that freedom is the ultimate reward of mastery. Emotional freedom is the ability to live life on your terms, make decisions deliberately, and engage with the world without surrendering your peace to chaos. It is the foundation for personal success, strong relationships, and long-term fulfillment. With mastery, you are no longer controlled by external events, the opinions of others, or impulsive emotional reactions. You are the architect of your own life, the captain of your inner world, and the deliberate creator of your reality. Now comes the most important step: action. Knowledge without action is wasted potential. It is one thing to understand emotional mastery, it is another to live it fully. Begin today, right now, to implement everything you have learned. Pause before reacting. Reflect before responding. Set boundaries that protect your peace. Observe triggers and rehearse your responses. Align your actions with your purpose. Celebrate every small win. Strengthen your resilience. And consistently reinforce the habits that make mastery your default state. Decide, right now, that you will no longer be a passive participant in your emotional life. Commit to mastering your reactions, protecting your peace, and living intentionally every day. Start small, start immediately, and reinforce daily. Every pause, every boundary, every deliberate choice compounds into the freedom, clarity, and influence you deserve. Today is the day you stop reacting to life and start living with mastery. Your future self will thank you. Remember, Mastery is not a final destination. It is a lifelong practice. But each moment you choose intention over impulse, calm over chaos, and principle over reaction, you step closer to the unstoppable life you were meant to live. Step forward. Master your emotions. Own your life.